I've seen a lot of people questioning why this situation, why is she in this story so captivating to so many people, both online and in mainstream media. And the simplest thing I have, which I'll get into more theories I have, but the simplest explanation I can think of is that this is kind of an intersection of this true crime popularity in general, the whole van life situation, or the van life popularity online as a result of the pandemic, which we'll get into in a few seconds, and of course, the influencer aspect of this, and also coming off of a year of a news cycle where we've had the pandemic, we've had an election, and a lot of different things that have just been circled through the same news cycle. And as sinister and as kind of weird as this sounds, I think this story was kind of a culmination of just all of that and needing a new story to talk about in the media and kind of a change of course. I don't know. There's a few theories I have, but also, one thing I saw was the Tim Pool podcast. I don't know if you know who Tim Pool is. He has a podcast which is kind of a newsworthy commentary panel show, and he brought up a question of why was she labeled as this influencer, but she wasn't that popular to the point where it'd be a household name that you would know. So that kind of indicated to me what I just said, which is all these other aspects, and then influencer was just thrown in on top of that. But I think it is kind of interesting to see that she wasn't that popular of an influencer and it's still picked up in the media, but also why this case again, and how we shouldn't necessarily be picking who we cover and who we don't based on their number of followers. But to that same note, unfortunately, if we did cover every single missing persons case, then we'd probably be a 24/7 news cycle of just covering that and dedicating to finding that, which I think some people would actually support. So that's a one angle. But I also had a theory that maybe this was also a way to strike fear in kind of the freedom-seeking aspect and freedom-seeking people who usually go for the van life situation, especially coming off this past year and a half with the pandemic, where a lot of people were just trying to get out of the big cities and just minimize and be more minimal in their life and just go for a ride and relax and get outdoors amid the lockdowns. I think a lot of the power is concentrated in these big cities that a lot of people escaped. And so those power structures and the powers that be, a lot of times in media, they have an arm in there, really don't want people doing that. And so the way to get them to stay in the city is to kind of strike fear in them if they dare try to be free or go outside of that construct. And so I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that what happened to Gabby isn't true or isn't tragic, but I do think the media latched on here versus other stories, maybe similar cases and whatnot, because it fits an agenda as well. Like that agenda may be just trying to get people to conform to a certain lifestyle or certain thing. And maybe the van life coupled with the fear tactic of a missing person and a girl that maybe looks like a lot of people and kind of is this influencer look to her. I think it was a perfect storm of all that and just needing a new story to talk about on the news, as sinister as I said, like I said before. On this same note, I want to talk about the comments made by Joy Ann Reid, who is the MSNBC primetime anchor, who made a comment about this story when it was really at the height. I think it's simmered down a little bit, this story, but of course they're still looking for the fiance. But her comment was that this might be another case of the missing white woman syndrome. And of course, I think that's the dumb comment, because like I said earlier, if we were going to go cover every missing persons, it shouldn't be because of the color of their skin. It should be because they're missing. We need to find them. And like I said before, it'd be a 24/7 news cycle of that if every news station covered that. And maybe you can have multiple covering different things. I don't know. But I think she's forgetting that we came off of a year of George Floyd. Not a white woman who was front page news in that whole story and the riots and everything that came out of that and all the movements that came out of that. We just came off of that. So I'm going to chalk this up to an example of a short-term memory that many people in powerful, influential positions in the media, in this case, want us normal folk and viewers to have, so that they can get away with any and everything from their past, so that we hopefully forget very quickly. But not working with this guy right here. But I'll save my thoughts in general on the whole true crime community in general for another time. But I want to make another note about the FBI in this case, which it just proved another instance where the FBI was just dropping the ball a lot lately. And clearly they're far from perfect. I mean, I don't think anyone thinks the FBI is perfect, but around the same time this was really blowing up, the story was when they had the hearings on Capitol Hill for the Larry Nassar handling of the FBI investigation with the USA Gymnastics girls and men. And so you wonder, they mess up that investigation. They don't try to follow where Gabby's fiance is going after he's the last person to have allegedly seen her alive. Makes you wonder, what is the priority of the FBI? But they had to make sure they had a ton of resources at a few of the rallies that ended up being mostly FBI informants. But that's a whole other thing.